All right, well, good morning, everyone. We will go ahead and call to order the Tech Plat Review meeting here on Wednesday, July 19th. It is 9:00 a.m. We are here both in room 326 in City Hall and virtually through Zoom. My name is Jessie Masters. I'm the Development Review Manager, and I will be kicking off the meeting today with 2 items of old business. The first up is LSD 2022-0017. This is a large-scale development submitted by ESI for properties located south of 5295 West Weddington Drive. The property is zoned RIU, Residential Intermediate Urban, and contains approximately 1.8 acres. The request is for a large-scale development with 21 triplex units and associated parking. Do we have an applicant present on the item today? Looks like we've got Mr. Murray has raised his hand. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Hi, it's Blake Murray with ESI.
Great, thank you. And Gretchen Harrison is the planner on this one. So if you would please introduce the comments.
Thanks, Jessie. Good morning, Blake. So planning is okay with this project moving forward to subdivision committee, but I did have a few comments and notes to leave on this submittal. First, just noting that property line adjustment for the parking will need to be recorded prior to permitting. Also just had a couple minor drafting comments about adjacent property owners and some things like that. Also, in the elevations and building plans that were provided, it looked like there were 7 sets of buildings shown, but there's only 5 on the plan. So just ask for some clarity on what's going to be included with this project and ask that you label each building on the plan just so I know which is which. Also make sure that the buildings that are facing Geyser Street have that front door on the primary facade shown on the elevations. But other than that, I think those were the only comments that I had, and again, it's okay to move forward. And just,
Okay.
Yep. And Melissa,
Quick question. It did say that we were tabled on the document for today, but we're not. That was a mistype.
that was a mistype from the last set of comments. I just didn't change it for this one. Sorry about that.
No, that's totally fine. Just making sure. Thank you.
Yep. And Melissa Evans isn't here this morning, so just to give you a brief overview of her comments, she has no issues with this and is okay with it moving forward as well. She did have a couple comments on the tree preservation and landscape plans. I think she asked for you to show the tree preservation easements and to provide shrubs to screen the parking from adjacent properties.
Okay.
That's it.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Gretchen. And with that, engineering.
Right, good morning, Blake. A few comments on this one. Comfortable moving it forward. And I think the biggest one is going to be the location of the aqua swirl. And so I'm asking to put it on the outlet pipe. Did see in the drainage report that he called out the parking areas to be treated by grass swale, but that's not going to meet the minimum requirements for water treatment. So I think the easiest way to fix that would be to move that aqua swirl to that outlet pipe. And then going along with that is providing a all-weather access to that point. I know it's pretty close to that alley, so having a curb cut or something like that to get over to the outlet structure.
Gotcha.
I think the only other kind of major comment, not really major comment, but has to deal with that sewer line on the north side of the property. So before we approve the building permit for that structure, obviously the grading permit will have to be issued, but that sewer line and easement will have to be abandoned and vacated respectively. So just FYI for the future of the project.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, there's actually no sewer in that line, so it shouldn't be a big deal. We'll get rid of that during construction and then abandon the easement.
Yep, that worked.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh.
Are there any comments from fire on this one? I actually don't see a representative from fire online. So if you do see any comments or questions from fire, Captain Nathan Wood is usually the one issuing comments on those. Jeremy Ashley may be available in his absence. So apologies for they are not here today. And solid waste.
Good morning. I didn't have any further comments from solid waste.
Okay, great. Any other city divisions that I'm missing wanting to make comments today? All right, hearing none, I will turn it over to the applicant. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not. Seems pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Okay, so the item, it sounds like it's getting forwarded. So the next stop will be subdivision committee. Are you aware of your next steps there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is LSD 2022-021. This is a large-scale development submitted by Community by Design. The property located at 1629 North Crossover Road. The property is zoned RSF4, residential single-family 4 units per acre, and contains approximately 1.93 acres. The request is for a development of a cluster housing development containing 15 new single-family residential units. And do we have an applicant present on this item? I see a phone number. If you could just state your name for the record, please. You may need.
Good morning, Brian Teague here.
Good morning, Mr. Teague. With that, we will send it over to Ryan Umberger, who's the planner on this one.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, Brian. Appreciate the comment, just letting us know that this most recent submittal related to the issues with drainage that you needed to resolve. So we just went through and reissued the same comments from the last round from planning. I think you're pretty well versed on those at this point, so I won't go into all of them unless you have any specific questions. I did want to acknowledge that Melissa left just a general question. She asked if the lots for the homes were being divided from the parent tract as part of this submittal. I guess just a point of clarification on that, since this is a large scale development, these would come back through as lot splits. But Melissa did want to put it on your radar that when these are split off into individual lots, that lot trees would be needed for each of those. And then I did also want to acknowledge that Fire forwarded along some comments, and they just said they don't have any additional comments on this one.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Engineering, did you have comments on this?
Yes, good morning, Brian. Had a few comments. Still would like some more information on how that impervious area is being treated over the public utility mains. Thank you for revising the report to reflect that it is considered impervious, so appreciate that. Notice that it's draining to that bioretention pond that's outlined in the southwest corner, so just need a little bit more information on that bioretention pond, how it's going to function, where exactly the inlet is and outlet. Want to make sure it's not short-circuiting, so making sure that we're designing it per the drainage manual's requirements. And then a few clarification comment statements. It looked like that wall that you've proposed on the west property line is called out to remain below 48 inches, but looking at the contour in that northwest corner, 1429 to 1422. So I just need some more information on the wall that's proposed along that property line or near that property line. And then with the under drain daylighting, want to make sure that those are returned to sheet flow, so we don't have concentrated flows coming out of those pipes. And then on the utility plan, I just had a few comments as far as meter locations and sewer service for lot 2 specifically, but also just need some more information on locations of meters, how we're gonna meet, not being in parking areas or driving lanes, because those lids on the meter cans are not traffic rated. But other than that, I think those were the main comments that I had on this one.
All right, thank you. Did solid waste have any comments on this one?
No, I didn't have any comments.
Okay, I believe that's everyone from the city staff. Did I miss anybody? Okay, Okay, hearing none, I'll turn it over then to the applicant. Do you have questions for staff at this time? And Ryan, could you remind me, was this being forwarded?
I believe so. I would defer to Josh for confirmation.
That's correct, yeah,
Okay,
comfortable moving.
thank you. So, Mr. Teague, you are being forwarded. Do you have any questions for staff at this time?
I don't think I have any specific questions. I appreciate everybody bearing with us while we get the drainage design in a better place. Yeah, I think it might help at this point. Maybe if we could sit down with engineering for 15 or 20 minutes or so and just discuss some of the details of the permeable pavement while we continue to kind of provide more detail to that design. But I can get a hold of Josh or Kristen and talk to them about that. I don't have any more questions. The revisions are required on Monday. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is our first item of new business. This is LSP 2022-035. This is a lot split submitted by Atlas PLS for property located at North Double Springs Road and North Starnes Road. The property is in the Fayetteville planning area and contains approximately 5 acres. The request is to split the property into 2 lots with 3.18 and 1.82 acres. Do we have an applicant present today?
Yes, Tim West with Atlas Professional Land Surveying.
Thank you, Mr. West. Gretchen Harrison is the planner on this one, so she will take it away. Thank you.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
So planning had a few comments on this one, but we are okay moving it forward. First, the consent of owner form that was submitted was blank, so just make sure that a signature from the property owner is provided on that and resubmitted through the portal.
I uploaded the wrong PDF.
Okay, that's what I figured.
As well as the survey. I didn't update my PDF before I sent it in, so.
Okay, that's good to know. Otherwise, on the survey, I just had some drafting comments really on it. I asked that you added a note about that variance that was approved earlier this year. And then adjust the setbacks a little bit and show adjacent property lines and update the signature blocks that were shown on it. Some other minor things worth noting. I think measuring the right-of-way from center line, there might be some additional right-of-way needed to be dedicated, but just need that measure to confirm. But otherwise, it's okay to move forward, and once those are addressed, it should be good for approval.
Right. Did engineering have comments on this one today?
I have this one approved as submitted.
All right. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not.
Okay, just make your resubmittal, and if everything's adequately addressed, you should be getting a conditional approval letter.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item is LSP 2022-036. This is a lot split submitted by Satterfield Land Surveyors for property located at 656 East Huntsville Road. The property is zoned RIU, Residential Intermediate Urban, and contains approximately 0.17 acres. The request is to split the property into 4 lots with 0.08 acres on lot 6A and 0.03 acres each on the other 3 lots. Do we have an applicant present today?
Yes, ma'am. Ricky Hill with Satterfield Surveying.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Ryan Umberger is the planner on this one.
All right.
So I'll try not to give you too much motion sickness, but I realize how small that is up there.
It's a little busy.
Yeah, well, and most of it's just kind of drafting.
Cosmetic.
Yeah,
Okay.
the first comment that I did want to just bring up is I didn't immediately see any side setbacks on this.
Okay.
And the implication with that, with the RIU zoning district, is that the resultant lots will be developed for either 3-family or greater, because single and 2-family residential has a 5-foot side setback. So I just, it's not necessarily, you can add those 5-foot side setbacks just to confirm exactly where those will be. But I did wanna, in either case, I think it's worth putting a note that single, 2, And 3 family dwellings are required to provide 2 vehicle spaces per dwelling, and 4 in multifamily dwellings. I guess multifamily would be a conditional use, so you can probably ignore that, but 4 family dwellings shall provide 1 vehicle space per bedroom. So I'm just asking for a note to be included, acknowledging the parking limitations since these lots are so small. Whoever would come in and need to develop, I just want them to be very apparent what their parking requirements are gonna be.
Alright.
Beyond that, like I said, the rest of it was pretty cosmetic. We're asking for the plat page number to be provided, dimensioning right of way from the center line of both Huntsville and Lighton. And then also just labeling each of those streets with their 2040 master street plan classification. And adding some owner information, and other than that, there was one other comment, that part of this, a couple of the lots involved in this lot split fall within the Hillside Hilltop Overlay District, and so we're just asking for hatching or some sort of boundary to be drawn indicating the extent of the Hillside Hilltop Overlay. And that is it on the planning side of things.
Any comments from engineering today?
Mine are pretty straightforward. I just need you to reflect the sewer mains and water mains on the property, and I also need you to show the water and sewer service lines that come off that existing home.
Thank you very much. So it sounds like this item's getting forwarded. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Do you have any questions for staff?
No, it's fairly cosmetic.
Okay. So are you aware of the next steps?
When's the deadline?
So
Resubmittal.
You'll resubmit, it's administrative after this, so you'll resubmit on your time.
Okay, all right, we'll get it back in.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Next, we have LSP 2022-038. This is a lot split submitted by Alan Reed and Associates for property located at 1921 North Old Wire Road. The property is zoned RSF4, residential single-family 4 units per acre, and contains approximately 1.06 acres. The request is to split the property into 2 lots with 0.31 and 0.74 acres. Do we have an applicant present today?
I'm Alan Reed here representing Jake Bourne.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. With that, I will turn it over to the planner on the project, is Ryan Umberger.
I think the first thing to just acknowledge off the bat was just the area that's indicated for the future development, since that's kind of outside the scope of what's being requested with this specific lot split.
Yes.
We're just asking that basically the extent of it is limited to where the lot split is occurring on the one track. So just kind of removing that future development from the survey. And then did pick up on, so tract A it does not meet the minimum lot width for RSF4, but we can consider it a tandem lot, which is something that's allowed through an administrative approval. It looks like you've got all the setbacks and everything reflecting that. But just want to acknowledge that we also have a separate requirement that any structures are required to any newly created lots are required to have access to city water, sewer, and street frontage that meet the minimum requirements of the zoning district. And so although we can consider that a tandem lot, there is a requirement in 164.16 that requires structures to be located on a lot which has frontage on a public street. And so I think this is probably in concert with a comment you'll be hearing from engineering later as far as having access to water. I think probably the easiest remedy to that is to just extend a leg of the property to give it that frontage onto Old Wire. Beyond that, that was really the biggest comments from planning. I think that's really it on our side of things.
Great, thank you, Mr. Umberger. Sounds like it's getting forwarded from planning.
Yes.
And engineering, did you have comments on this one?
Yeah, I need you to show access to water for 1923 North Old Wire Road. and also need you to show access to sewer for 1921 North Old Wire Road. Other than that, that's it.
Okay. So I don't believe there's any other city divisions wanting to make comments on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Do you have questions for staff?
So the existing water meter for Tract A is, of course, it's not in any type of land owned, that will be owned by Tract A right now. So are they requesting then I move the meter to a location that would be inside a tail?
I would have to defer to Dave for the meter location.
There's a double meter out there by the driveway that serves each house.
Sure.
And, you know, the applicant asked me to put in that temporary easement. This is all based on him developing the rest of that property that you spoke of earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And there would then be a water main or a water meter at the south side of A, along with access, a new access route, but that's, of course, that's all in the future. So if I'm just using what I have now, I've got a double meter and the water line, of course, if I ran a tail out to Old Wire, I wouldn't want to put it in a place where it split B into two tracks. So it would have to probably be that tail would have to be along the south line of B, but that's not where the existing water line is. So would there be a requirement to move that water line? And as far
The answer is yes.
okay.
You're gonna have to, it's against our rules that you, on a lot split, that you take a service line and run it across another piece of property, across the property line.
Right.
And that goes for the sewer also, because I can see where you're getting your sewer over here, and it comes down, but it doesn't come down far enough for it to be able to access that tract B. It's all over there in tract A, so that's
Right.
pretty much the answer.
Okay. Next.
Anything else we can help you with?
No.
Okay.
Right.
So your next steps, you'll just resubmit when it's ready to go and get your comments after that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Our next item is LSP 2022-039. This is a lot split submitted by Blue and Associates for property located at 1629 South Price Avenue. The property is zoned NC, Neighborhood Conservation, and contains approximately 0.35 acres. The request is to split the property into two lots with 0.15 and 0.19 acres. Do we have an applicant present on this item? I see Mr. Nathan Crouch has raised his hand. If you would just state your name for the record, please.
Good morning, this is Nathan Crouch with Blue Associates representing this project.
Great, thank you, Mr. Crouch. With that, Ryan, would you take it away, please?
Sure. More Nathan. This one's being forwarded by planning as well. We only have drafting comments on this one. Just to run through those, adding the plat page number, we also need one of the signature blocks swapped out. So right now we've got the certificate of approval for recording. The zoning and development administrator doesn't have to sign off on lot splits. So if you could just replace that with a certificate of accuracy. We're asking for a dimension for the 2040 Master Street Plan right-of-way line on the existing road, and then asking for some property owner information. And then one other, I guess there were sort of two other as far as like overlays go on this one. So we're requesting that a note be added saying that the property falls within the Parksdale and Center Additions design overlay, and also the Fayette Junction master planning area. And then it looked like I think the floodplain note was accurate on this. It looked like it just kind of covered the property immediately to the south. If you could add some sort of overlay or indicate the boundary of where that floodplain ends, just because it does get somewhat close to these lots. Just hoping to have that added on there for the benefit of any future planners or residents that would pick this up. And that's all we've got from planning.
Thank you. With that, engineering, did you have comments on this one?
This one's approved as submitted.
All right, so it sounds like the item's getting forwarded. With that, I'll turn over to the applicant. Do you have questions for staff?
Yeah, thanks. It has to do with the, adding the, property owner information to the plat. Pretty simple stuff, but we tend to avoid adding our applicants' phone numbers to these public documents. Just kind of wanted to, see how you feel about that. Since we'll be adding all that contact information into the application, it's basically our policy not to put it on the plat. You know, obviously we'll get you what you require. That's just the reasoning behind that on our side. Just kind of wanted to see what you thought.
Sure. I don't necessarily see an issue. That comment does come from just our plat requirements. But if we've got that included with other submittal documents, then yeah, that's not a problem.
Good for it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Are you aware of your next steps?
If I understand correctly, we're just address all this and get it resubmitted, and then is this one that will be administrative past this point?
It sure is. Yep.
Perfect.
All right.
We're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let us know if there's anything else. Next up, we have LSP 2022-040. This is a lot split submitted by ESI for property located at North Crossover Road and North Hillside Terrace. The property is zoned RPZD Residential Planned Zoning District and contains approximately 22.48 acres. The request is to split the property into 3 lots, 18.02 acres on Tract 1, 3.11 acres on Tract 2, and 1.35 acres on Tract 3. Do we have an applicant present on the item? See if Mr. Murray has raised his hand. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Hi, yes, Blake Murray with ESI.
Great, thank you, Mr. Murray. With that, Mr. Umberger is the planner on this one.
Sure. Good morning, Blake. This one is being forwarded by planning. We're asking on the consent of owner. It looks like, the property owner on this one is Chandler Crossing LLC. So the sign off that we have is from Riggins Commercial Construction. We either just need like a supplemental letter saying that they're authorized to sign on behalf, or somebody filling out that entity owns or represents a line with the Chandler Crossing LLC. I did notice too on the request letter, it seemed like the parcel number that was reflected on the request letter may have been on the adjoining lot, but I wasn't 100% sure on that, so I did leave a comment on that. Not anything terribly significant, but just wanted to bring that to your attention. I think on this one, the most significant comment we have is to just include the zoning information on the plat, and that would include the bulk area, setback, and building height regulations, especially since this one's in a PZD. Just having all of that on the plat itself helps, and also indicating the planning areas in the PZD that these lots would fall under. And then also asking to include line work and dimensions on setbacks for all of the property lines on this one. Other than that, just a couple of drafting comments, and again, this one is being forwarded by planning.
Awesome, thank you, Ryan. Hey, one quick clarification. I did see a comment that was talking about the minimum lot area for Tract 3. That's actually the commercial zoning district, which doesn't have a lot minimum.
Yeah, sorry, that is a leftover. I think I was going through the PZ. That was when I scrubbed that. I meant to delete that comment off of there. I was going through the zoning information, and I think that's when I just was like, you know what, just putting it on the plat would be most helpful.
Sure.
So, yeah, no worries.
No, that makes sense. We'll make it a lot clearer on the resubmittal.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Engineering, did you have comments on this one?
I do. You need to show access to track 1 and track 3 for water. I don't think water and sewer would like for you to go across 265 with another service line. And so it needs to be accessed probably from the development that's behind it.
I guess in terms of a lot split though, we technically do have water and sewer for all 3 lots. It'll never get built that way because Chandler Crossing is gonna tie into the infrastructure and extend it, but I mean, technically we meet all code by having the water main on the other side of the highway that we could technically bore and tie into.
Blake, this is Josh. Utilities wouldn't sign off on a new permit to go under RDOT right of way. So I think probably the cleanest way to move forward on this one would kind of reflect the future water line for Chandler Crossing. And it might be something to where the actual lot split can't be signed off until that infrastructure's in.
Gotcha, there's no way to do it conditional on Chandler Crossing since that one's at the grading permit stage?
Not at this time. I mean, it's something we could talk about in the next week or so.
Okay.
If you want to set up a meeting, but yeah, right now it's with that, with that track 2 cutting off water in that northwest corner, 1 and 3 don't have access to it.
All right, I'll talk to my developer and I'll probably reach out to you early next week. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Yep.
Are there any other comments on that item from any members of city staff? Hearing none, does the applicant, do you have any additional questions for staff this time?
I do not. Thank you.
Are you aware of your next steps?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That, we will go to our next item is PPL 2022-08. This is a preliminary plat submitted by Jorgensen and Associates for property located at West McClure Way and North Ainsley Loop. The property is zoned RSF4, residential single family, 4 units per acre, and contains approximately 49.56 acres. The request is to subdivide the property into, I believe it's actually closer to 70 lots. Do we have an applicant present on this item today? Seeing none online and nobody here in person, we will have to table that item for non-attendance. We will circle back towards the end of the meeting to see if somebody is able to attend on that. So with that, we will move on to our next item is CCP 2022-09. This is a concurrent plat submitted by ESI for property located at 3447 North Highway 112. The property zones CS Community Services and contains approximately 24.83 acres. The request is to split the property into 2 lots containing 23.67 and 1.16 acres. Mr. Ryan Umberger is the planner on this one. Do we have an applicant present? I see a Kyle Davin has raised his hand. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Hi, this is Kyle Davin with the SI.
Hello. All right, Mr. Umberger, if you would, please.
Sure. Good morning, Kyle. This one is being forwarded by planning. Didn't notice any zoning issues, but we did just have some drafting comments on this one. So some of the adjoining parcels were rezoned fairly recently. So we're just asking that the adjoining property owner information is updated on this one. We're also asking for the typical 2040 Master Street Plan right-of-way dimension to be shown along Highway 112 in addition to the dimension that y'all are already showing. And then on this planned residential Link Street extension, so on the plat it's showing 59 feet of right-of-way to be dedicated, and I realize that there are some limitations with where that master street plan connection is being drawn as far as your southern property line and not being able to dedicate right of way on the property immediately to the south. In general, a lesser dedication of right of way is something that requires city council approval. But there are also options to administratively reduce the amount of right-of-way that you would be dedicating, and for residential Link Street, it would be getting rid of the 7-foot on-street parking lane. So that may be an option as far as getting that lesser dedication that's gonna meet the requirement without you having to go back before council. Beyond that, those were the most significant comments from planning, just asking for setbacks to be revised in a couple on a couple property lines with the in light of the rezoning, and we are again recommending this one move forward. I can touch on Melissa's comments on this one. She just said that it was approved by Urban Forestry, so no further comments there.
All right, engineering, any comments on this one?
I did not have any comments on this one.
Okay, and fire, did you have comments on this?
No.
No comments from fire. So with that, I will turn it over to the applicant. Sounds like you're getting forwarded. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not.
No questions. All right, well, since this is a concurrent plat, it will have to go through the public hearing route, so we'll see this item at subdivision committee. Are you aware of your next submittal date?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Let us know if there's anything else we can help you with. Thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you.
Next item is CCP 2022-010. This is a concurrent plat submitted by Bates and Associates for property located at 3091 West Finger Road. The property is in the Fayetteville planning area and contains approximately 41.59 acres. The request is to split the property into 3 tracts, 19.35, 5.05, and 13.5 acres. And do we have an applicant present today?
Yes, Justin Reed with Bates and Associates.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I am the planner on this one, so if you give me one moment to get those plans pulled up. I didn't have too many comments on there, so let's just bear with me 1 second. Most of them were just minor plat comments, just some minor corrections on various notes. We got, the right-of-way dedicated with the other concurrent plat we did recently, so that looked all good to go. Just wanted to, I did not see another just kind of plat comment. You had the parcels labeled, but I didn't see, and it's possible I just missed it when I was reviewing it, a table indicating the property ownership on there, so just get that thrown on.
I think it's on page 1.
Is it on page 1? I think I was delirious looking at there it is. I do see
There's
it.
a lot of text.
It was one of those things I'm like, I know what's going to happen is I'm going to issue this comment and then I'm going to see it like the second that I say it. So again, the comments were very minor from us, so I guess just I just wanted to say something, I guess. So yeah, again, very minor comments for us. It appears to be meeting Washington County zoning, so similarly, this one, you get a stamp from us and then signed by them. So I did not have any further comments there. I don't believe Urban Forestry will have any comments since this is in the county, and I don't believe Fire will have any comments either. So I will see if engineering had any comments on this item.
Thank you.
I didn't have any comments on this one either.
Yep.
Thank you, Josh.
So a pretty straightforward submittal there. Do you have any questions for staff?
No, Jesse, I think everything's pretty clear at this point.
Okay, good. Since it is a concurrent plat, even though it is pretty straightforward, we will have to see this one go through the process. So we'll see it at subdivision committee and then planning commission.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. Let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then our last item today on the agenda is LSD 2022-024. This is a large-scale development submitted by Craft & Tull for property located at 3766 North Investment Drive. The property is zoned C1 neighborhood commercial and contains approximately 3.05 acres. The proposed project will consist of construction of a 7,990 square foot commercial building on a 1.69 acre lot and construction of a 6,673 square foot commercial building on a 1.361 acre lot. Do we have an applicant present? I see a Brad Peterson has raised his hand. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Brad Peterson with Craft & Tull.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Ryan Umberger is the planner on this one, so if you would please.
Sure. Thank you, Jesse, and good morning, Brad.
Good morning.
So on this one, we had a comment about adding zoning classifications to the adjacent property owner information. Perhaps most significantly tied to that is For these lots, we typically define front setbacks as extending, or being along a public street. In this case, Investment Drive is just a private drive. So it's likely, I think, all sides of the, all of your setbacks would be 0 foot side setbacks. But that could change based on the zoning of the property to the north, which I believe is outside of city limits. So we just wanted to confirm if that's a residential zoning district or something else. It may make your setback on the north end fluctuate. I think it would be a 10-foot setback if it's like a residential district. And then we are just asking for some confirmation of the intended use of the units. On the cover sheet, it looked like based on the parking table that these were just gonna be retail units, based on your parking calculations. And then we did want to acknowledge on this plan, the square footage of the building in the parking table didn't match the size that was indicated on the plat itself. So just looking for confirmation on that for parking calculations. And then there were multiple instances where parking stall depths were listed at 18 feet. And so you are allowed to have up to 2 feet of overhang over like landscaping areas. But if there's like a sidewalk in the front, like on this spot further north, those are gonna need to be 19 feet, and the typical depth is 19 feet. Let's see. We did wanna confirm the dimensions of the solid waste enclosure on lot 19A4. And it didn't look like there was any waste enclosure included on 19A5. I'm probably just gonna defer to solid waste for any comments that they have on that, but it may require something like a shared agreement. And then the only other comment I had was on the building plans itself. So it looked like as far as our non-residential design standards go, our commercial office and mixed use design standards go, large unarticulated wall surfaces, generally we require those to go to the planning commission for like a variance. So I was just kind of wondering if there was any shifts or depth in the wall plane that could create, visual interest or shadows on this structure in particular. It looked like it was largely compliant with our requirements, but just hoping to see, if there's anything that can be done with the wall plane there. Beyond that, planning doesn't have any additional comments, and we are recommending that this one move forward.
Great, thank you, Mr. Umberger. With that, did you report on urban forestry?
Oh, sorry, no, I did not. Just one moment. So from urban forestry, they are asking for tree preservation calculations and preservation fencing to be shown.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Engineering, did you have comments on this one?
I did, yes. Good morning, Brad. Josh with engineering. We are going to be tabling this project, mainly due to drainage. So this area was a part of an approved drainage study, the Seaman Business Park, but last July, City Council passed an ordinance that can require the city to let a developer meet current drainage standards if there's non-public flooding upstream of a property, and there is non-public flooding upstream of this property. So we are going to be requiring current drainage standards, which are outlined in the 2014 drainage manual. The other, main other comment concern the wall and the fill placed in the floodplain. So we'll just need some additional information to determine if a flood study is warranted in this situation. So providing what that base flood elevation is, where that the wall is going and where some of that fill is being placed. But those were the two main comments that I had on this. As far as utilities, want to make sure that, especially on this lot, the location of those utilities are verified. I think when this whole subdivision went in, water and sewer services were placed in anticipation of future development. So just verifying that those pieces of infrastructure are actually in place and can be used instead of proposing new taps or new services. But those are the comments that I had. Like I said, we will be tabling this one due to drainage.
Thank you, Mr. Picascio. Fire, do you have any comments?
Just one brief, Captain Wood reviewed this project. The only note he left was all areas not designated as parking is required to be identified as no parking fire lane.
Okay. Any other city divisions wanting to make comments on this today? Solid waste?
Yeah, good morning. One comment for the enclosure, just making sure that it's 24 feet wide and 12 feet deep from front to back. And we're good with the location on that. And then I just wanted to verify with the other building if the intention was to share services with one of
Yes, that's the intention. The existing dumpster that's not, it's shown on the drawing but not labeled very well. There's an existing dumpster that partially crosses the property line. The intent would be to share services of that property to the south.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you very much. Did I miss anybody? I think that was everyone. With that, it does sound like the item is getting tabled. I will turn it over to the applicant. Do you have questions for staff, Mr. Peterson?
No, I think comments are clear, and we'll, of course, be working on the drainage design, and we'll reach out to engineering staff if needed.
Okay. So since it is tabled, we will see it again at a tech plat meeting once you've resubmitted, along with the typical tech plat submittal deadlines. So if you have any questions about that, please let us know. With that, I did.
What is the deadline to
Sure,
resubmit?
yeah. So the next submission deadline for tech plat is going to be, so the next available date will be August 3rd. And that would ultimately potentially place the item on the September 12th Planning Commission.
Okay, so resubmit for tech plat review on August 3rd.
Correct, yep, by 10
Potentially for September 13th.
Yep, September 12th. Right. Anything else we can help clarify for you?
No.
All right, thank you very much for your time today. I will,
Thank you.
I would like to recognize that we do have a Blake Jorgensen present now. I believe he is here to hear the item that we previously skipped over. So while we were at the end of our agenda, I do want to recognize his attendance. So this is going to be for item PPL 2022-08. This is a preliminary plat submitted by Jorgensen and Associates for property located at West McClure Way and North Ainsley Loop. The property is zoned RSF4, residential single family, 4 units per acre, and contains approximately 49.56 acres. The request is to subdivide the property into, I believe, close to 70 lots. And do we have an applicant now present on the item?
Yes, Blake Jorgensen, thank you very much for your time. I was caught up in a conflicting meeting, so I appreciate you all taking the time to hear this. So thank you very much.
No problem. We're happy to do it. So with that, we will go ahead and take it away here. Let me get this pulled up. Planning staff had minimal comments on it. We appreciate the submittal, but we did want to bring your attention primarily to the street improvements comments and sort of the variances needed. So we do see that you're requesting the alternative residential link street, which does require planning commission approval when it's outside of the Hillside Hilltop Overlay District. I believe that I believe the entire site is not encumbered with the Hillside Hilltop Overlay District, so we'll want to see that boundary identified, and then a variance letter received for the specific area, or I guess it's not really a variance, but it's a request to planning commission to use that street section outside of the Hillside Hilltop Overlay District. I did want to make sure that the right-of-way was dimensioned on the plat. It didn't appear to be clearly dimensioned on all of the streets, so show that from the street center line and overall for all of the proposed streets. And then we'll also need a variance for the block length, a specific variance of request. I believe you had mentioned it in your letter of intent, but we'll want to make sure that that's spelled out specifically in the reasons why it's needed. I also appreciated the street profile information that you provided as well. So I believe that it's likely going to be something staff can support, but we'll just want to see all of that just spelled out in the letter. Some plat comments. Just make sure your adjacent zoning information show that Hillside Hilltop Overlay boundary. The legal description, I did notice that GIS looked like they approved it, but it looked like the acreage might have been for more than just the lot. I believe it's like lot 25 that you're going to be building this phase on. So just clear that up. They approved it for closure and completeness, but I just wanted to make sure it actually aligned with the project's specific boundary. And then I did have a question about this proposed what looked like a connection here. Wanted to better understand if that was going to be dedicated as right-of-way at this time, or what the overall intent there was. It was just slightly unclear whether there was sort of any connection going to be made. Did want to also just, I'm not actually sure if I put this comment in here, so I apologize if I missed it, but did want to just backtrack on that variance request again and just try to understand if there was any form of pedestrian connection or some other kind of connectivity that we could get east-west through the site as sort of a condition of approval of that variance. Just sort of chewing on some ideas there for conditions of approval to help try to maintain some connectivity, even though I do recognize it's a very difficult site. So just things to be thinking about as we head towards Planning Commission and what will likely be discussions there. A couple other comments related to zoning actually. I did call out a couple lots that looked like they might have been under the required lot widths for their respective zoning districts. So just double check those. Again, I do know that we do have in RSF 4, there is a different minimum lot width for Hillside Hilltop Overlay. So it may end up becoming moot for some of those lots if that boundary does overlay on some of these lots, but just get that clarified for me, please. Again, not anything terribly major as far as comments go. Yeah, I didn't see the overall property line in the legend either, so just trying to, I had a little bit of lack of clarity here on where, since the right-of-way wasn't dimensioned, where the property lines were proposed to start. I believe the intention is for them to be behind the sidewalk, but just clarify that line work a little bit for us. Other than that, those are planning's main comments, so appreciate the submittal, and let me know if you have any questions. We are planning to move this one forward. So Urban Forestry also did have some comments on this. She indicated that she would like to see proposed house footprints and driveways on the lots on the tree preservation plan to help reflect some more realistic and accurate tree preservation. There's been instances in developments throughout the city where areas that are shown for tree preservation don't end up staying as preserved once the houses get developed, and so she just wants to make sure that the proposed footprints and driveways don't conflict with what the planned tree preservation outlines are. So I'm sure she'd be able to further elaborate on that request if needed. And so with that, I will go over to, but she was planning on moving it forward. She didn't indicate a need to table on that. with that, I will go to engineering. Mr. Boccaccio?
Good morning, Blake. We are comfortable moving this one forward as well. Do want to point out a couple comments as far as the plan set goes. As far as the sidewalk location on Gratitude Way and Mountain Ranch Place, the preference that we would have would be to place that sidewalk on the opposite side of the street, so the downhill side, to provide more of a buffer to those homes as water is coming down the hillside. I think I showed that on the grading plan, Jesse.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so shifting that, switching sides, and we did take a preliminary look at street profiles and grades, and as of right now, we're comfortable with those. Do want additional information as we go along. Like I said, we didn't take a full deep dive into the profiles, side distances, and things like that. But for the most part, city engineer was comfortable with the K values that were proposed, taking into account the topography of the site.
Okay, good deal.
And then as far as the drainage report, I did review that letter. On the next submittal, if you would please submit the overall drainage report for the development that takes this lot into account. And you mentioned there was a slight adjustment as far as layout, and so that won't have any effect on the CN, TC, or overall drainage patterns. But if you would put some numbers to that, so if lot count changed, if square footage changed, things like that, and that would make it a little easier to review. So that's all I had.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And fire.
Would you mind going to that page where Nathan had made those comments? Captain Wood reviewed it. Everything I think is, yep. So parking will be allowed on one side of the street as indicated. Need no parking. Fire lane signs are going to be required per Fire Code D103.6. I believe that is the only comments that he made. Looks like it.
All right. I believe that is the case. That aligns, I think, with what I have as well. So with that, I did want to relay a parks comment, actually, that I think I had missed when I was doing my tech plat. My planning's tech plat review is it doesn't appear that this project has gone before PRAB yet. So we would need to see this go in front of PRAB before the item could be heard by the subdivision committee. Do you have this scheduled for PRAB currently?
We actually got the whole development approved last time I went through. So the whole 101 acres,
okay.
They are taking money in lieu.
Okay. All right.
And I can get that letter for you.
Okay, that would be helpful if we could have that letter, and then it looks like John Scott issued that comment through the portal. So if you could reach out to him, he's covering in Zach Foster's absence right now. So
sure.
Thanks. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So we'll want to make sure that
good deal.
This may need to go in front of PRAB. So we'll need that clarification. So I guess the caveat there being that we can still move forward on this tentatively. If it hasn't been at PRAB before subdivision committee, we may need to table it at that time, just to make sure everything's caught up to speed. So I believe that's everyone. Unless Solid Waste, did you have comments on this one?
No comments from Solid Waste.
Okay. So with that, do you have questions for staff?
No, I really appreciate it. Let me come back on this agenda today. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Any announcements? All right, hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn today's Tech Plat review meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.